Welcome, Chosen One. You don't poke a sleeping lion and expect to walk away unscathed. What they've done to you isn't just foolish, it's suicidal. Picking a fight with a Chosen One is like dancing on a volcano, daring it to erupt. They thought they were invincible, but they've lit a fire they cannot outrun, a blaze that will consume everything they hold dear. History whispers a brutal truth. Those who target the divinely favored never win. Their arrogance blinds them, their envy fuels them, but their downfall is always spectacular. You see, when envy takes the wheel, destruction is always the destination. Yet they never stop to consider the price. They've set the stage for their own collapse. Here's the truth they didn't see coming. The torment they inflicted on you wasn't just noticed by you, it was noticed by God. And His justice doesn't play by human rules. What they thought was a spark has become an inferno, and this time the flames aren't just angry, they're divine. So, prepare yourself, because this is a story of vengeance cloaked in divine justice. They thought they were unstoppable, but the ground beneath them is already cracking. They've awakened something greater than you, something beyond their control, and now they must face the fire they dared to ignite. If this message resonates with you, let your voice be heard. Like this video, hit that subscribe button, and comment 77 below to declare your power as one of the chosen. Let the world know you're awake, unstoppable, and ready for what's coming. Your journey isn't over, it's just beginning. Number 1. They bit off more than they could chew. They thought you were just another face in the crowd, someone they could manipulate, ridicule, or dismiss without consequence. But what they failed to see was the divine blueprint etched into your existence. You weren't placed in their path by accident. You were a warning, a reflection, and a test. And instead of honoring the gift of your presence, they trampled on it, blinded by their own arrogance. "Do not touch my anointed ones," says the word. Yet they ignored the warning. Like sailors mocking the calm before a storm, they underestimated the magnitude of your calling and the force that shields you. Their ignorance was their first mistake, but their persistence in harming you was their undoing. Every cruel word they spoke, every calculated action against you, was like throwing stones at a hornet's nest. They thought they could walk away unharmed, but now the swarm is upon them. Your silence wasn't weakness. It was a lion lying in wait, a volcano gathering its strength. They thought they had won when you didn't react, but they failed to realize that patience isn't surrender. Patience is power. It's the divine pause before a reckoning. They wrote checks their spirit couldn't cash, and now the debt is due. Their attacks weren't just personal, they were spiritual. By targeting you, they challenged forces far greater than themselves. Imagine a moth flying toward a flame, unaware it's sealing its own fate. That's what they've done. They thought they were extinguishing your light, but instead, they stoked a fire that will consume their illusions of control. You weren't placed here to be a victim. You were placed here to be a vessel. Their actions sent ripples through realms they couldn't see, disrupting plans they didn't understand. And now, those ripples have turned into waves, crashing back onto them with the weight of divine justice. They thought they were tearing you down, but every stone they threw only built the foundation for your rise. Your light has grown stronger, sharper, and undeniable. Now, they stand in the shadows of their own making, bewildered by the power they tried to suppress. They played with fire, and now they're learning the hard way. Some flames can't be controlled. Their downfall is no longer a matter of if, it's a matter of when. They underestimated you, and more importantly, they underestimated the God who walks before you. Number 2. Pride comes before the fall. They thought they could toy with you and walk away, untouched and undefeated. Their arrogance was their armor, convincing them they were untouchable, too clever for consequences, and too powerful to ever fall. They mistook your silence for weakness, your patience for permission. But the very pride they wore so boldly has become the weight pulling them under. Arrogance is a dangerous illusion. It blinds people to the invisible forces that govern the world. They mocked the laws of balance, acting as though they could uproot what was divinely planted. But they weren't just hurting you. They were interfering with a sacred plan, poking holes in a fabric they couldn't see, much less comprehend. To challenge a chosen one isn't just an insult to you. It's a challenge to the one who chose you. Here's an eternal truth. You don't win battles against God. But in their pride, they didn't believe in what they couldn't see. They acted as if spiritual justice was a myth, as if they could move in darkness forever without the light exposing them. They built their schemes on lies, thinking the foundation was solid, but now the cracks are splitting wide open. They thought they were in control, but they were dancing on quicksand all along. Arrogance is loudest before the collapse, isn't it? They strutted boldly, convinced they had silenced you, broken you, outsmarted you. Yet here they are, ensnared in a trap they set themselves. The fire they started is now roaring out of control, and no clever lie or desperate excuse can save them. The very energy they sent to destroy you has turned back on them, magnified and relentless. God saw what they did, every hidden scheme, every venomous word, every calculated betrayal. You didn't need to retaliate, because divine justice doesn't require your hands to act. Now, they're left scrambling as their carefully crafted illusions unravel before their eyes. They believed they were invincible, but they were merely blind. Their greatest mistake wasn't underestimating you. It was underestimating the God who shields you. And now they know, pride might make you feel untouchable, but it also makes your fall inevitable. Number 3. They lit a fire that forged you, not burned you. They thought they could break you. Their goal was clear: to see you crumble, to shatter your confidence, and to make you question everything you were meant to become. But in their arrogance, they underestimated the fire they were igniting. Instead of reducing you to ashes, it became the flame that forged you. What was meant to destroy you only revealed your unshakable strength. It's a cosmic irony, isn't it? Their cruelty was the hammer, and their betrayal was the anvil. But instead of breaking you, they crafted something indestructible. The very pain they inflicted became the catalyst for your transformation. Like gold refined in fire, you emerged brighter, purer, and more valuable than ever before. Every insult, every scheme, every setback, they weren't setbacks at all. They were steps in the process of your evolution. They thought they were snuffing out your light, but all they did was fan the flames of your resilience. The fire they started didn't consume you. It burned away the doubts, fears, and limitations that once held you back. They mistook their power for control, but they couldn't control what they had awakened inside you. The irony is almost poetic. The harder they tried to destroy you, the closer you got to becoming unstoppable. Their attempts to derail your path only pushed you faster toward your destiny. Like a phoenix rising from the ashes, you've become a living testament to the truth that what's meant for harm can be transformed into triumph. And now they're left to watch in stunned silence. They see the version of you they never imagined possible, stronger, sharper, wiser, and untouchable. The fire they lit, meant to be your undoing, has become the flame that lights your way forward. What they intended as your defeat has turned into a victory they will be forced to witness, powerless to stop. The lesson is clear. A chosen one doesn't burn, they rise. And now you stand as proof that no amount of darkness can ever extinguish a flame ignited by purpose. Number 4. Their deeds became the evidence that sealed their fate. They believed their actions were invisible, their cruelty unnoticed, their betrayals forgotten as time passed. But they couldn't have been more wrong. Every word they spoke against you, every calculated act of harm, every lie they spread, it wasn't just seen, it was recorded. The spiritual realm doesn't miss a thing, especially when the target is a chosen one. You don't walk this path alone. Your purpose carries a divine protection they couldn't comprehend. What they thought was a private vendetta was, in reality, a challenge to something far greater than you, a challenge to the very plan God set in motion. Their actions became more than personal attacks. They became evidence in a spiritual court where justice isn't delayed and no deed goes unmeasured. Each betrayal, no matter how cleverly disguised, was laid bare before unseen forces. Every whisper of malice, every scheme carried out in darkness, rippled into realms they didn't even believe existed. They thought they were getting away with it, but they were only piling weight onto the scales of divine justice. Their arrogance blinded them to the truth. Nothing escapes the eyes of God. It's almost poetic. They built their case against themselves, piece by piece, with every hurtful action they directed at you. They thought they were untouchable, but all they were doing was seal in their own fate. What they sowed in secrecy is now blooming for all to see, and the fruits of their deeds are bitter. They didn't just attack you, they attacked your calling, your purpose, the divine hand guiding your life. And that's a battle no human can win. Justice isn't always immediate, but for the chosen, it's always inevitable. The very acts they thought would crush you are now the proof of their own downfall, echoing louder than their excuses could ever drown out. What they thought was hidden has been exposed. The evidence is undeniable, and now they face the consequences of a truth they can no longer evade. When you harm the chosen, you sign your own judgment. Number 5. They mocked the light that revealed their shadows. Their laughter wasn't about you. It was about the reflection they saw in your light. They couldn't grasp the favor you carried, the calm resilience you wore, or the divine purpose you walked in. So, instead of seeking to understand, they chose to mock. Why? Because your presence unsettled something deep within them, something they couldn't face. What people can't understand, they often fear, and what they fear, they attack. Their sarcasm and ridicule were a shield for their own insecurities, a deflection from the truth that your light exposed. The divine energy within you acted like a mirror, forcing them to confront their own jealousy, bitterness, and rebellion. Mocking you was their way of avoiding their own shadows, of silencing the discomfort your strength stirred in them. But their mockery wasn't harmless. Every word they spoke, every sneer they directed at you wasn't just an insult to you. It was a rebellion against the source of your strength. They weren't just laughing at you, they were rejecting the divine energy working through you, a rejection that carries a weight far heavier than they could understand. To mock the light is to resist the truth, and rebellion against truth always has consequences. Here's the irony they never saw coming. Their cruelty didn't dim your light, it magnified it. While they were busy tearing you down, your spirit grew stronger. While they mocked what they couldn't comprehend, your faith solidified, your purpose sharpened. Every attempt to diminish you only added fuel to the fire that was refining you. And now, as they stand watching your rise, the truth becomes impossible to ignore. What they mocked wasn't weakness, it was unshakable favor. The very thing they tried to destroy has become the evidence of what they lacked: courage, faith, and divine protection. Their attempts to break you only proved the strength they could never understand, and now they are left to face the reality that the light they ridiculed was always beyond their grasp. Number 6. They mistook your silence for defeat. They thought your quietness was proof that they'd broken you. To them, your lack of retaliation was submission, a white flag signaling their supposed victory. They couldn't have been more wrong. Your silence wasn't surrender. It was the calm before a storm they didn't see coming. In their arrogance, they misunderstood the power of stillness. You knew something they didn't. Not every battle requires your hands or your voice. Silence, when wielded by the chosen, isn't weakness, it's strategy. While they were busy plotting and scheming, you chose wisdom over impulse, restraint over retaliation. You stepped aside, not out of fear, but because you trusted in a force far greater than yourself to set things right. Divine justice doesn't rush, but it never misses. Your silence wasn't empty. It was the loudest call for spiritual intervention. Every insult they hurled, every trap they set, every lie they spread. They thought they were securing their victory, but all they were doing was digging their own grave. The fire they sparked was already smoldering in their direction, fueled by the very energy they unleashed to harm you. And as they reveled in their arrogance, something remarkable happened. Your silence exposed them. Stripped of their masks, their true selves came to light. They revealed their malice, their insecurities, and their deceit for all to see, thinking you were too weak or too passive to notice. But you were watching, not with the intent to strike back, but with the confidence that every action has its consequence. Now, the consequences are unfolding, and they can't escape the truth. The silence they mocked has become their greatest humiliation. What they thought was your weakness was strength beyond their comprehension. By stepping back, you didn't lose. You handed the battle over to a force that never fails, a justice that is always exact. And that's the ultimate irony. They thought they had silenced you, but it's their own cries for mercy that echo now. Their greatest mistake wasn't underestimating your voice. It was underestimating your silence. Number 7. They turned a blind eye to mercy's warnings. The warnings were there, plain as sunlight breaking through a storm, a streak of bad luck they couldn't explain, a dream that left them shaken, a nagging voice whispering for them to stop. These weren't random moments. They were divine lifelines, quiet invitations to turn back. But their pride, it drowned out the whispers of grace. They brushed aside their unease, calling it paranoia. The setbacks they faced were labeled as coincidence, and the dreams meant to wake them up were dismissed as nothing more than imagination. Instead of pausing to reflect, they charged ahead, emboldened by their belief that they were untouchable. Here's the truth. Mercy always comes before judgment. Even those who inflict harm are given chances, moments of clarity where they can choose to change. The warnings weren't there to punish them. They were opportunities to step away from the edge before it was too late. But pride, with its blinding grip, shut their hearts to reason. They ignored the cracks forming in their plans, mistaking the delay in consequences as permission to continue. What they failed to see was that every ignored warning was a step closer to destruction. The whispers grew louder, the signs more obvious, but their arrogance deafened them. They doubled down on their path, unaware that their own hands were lighting the fire that would soon consume them. And now, as the world around them crumbles, those dismissed moments are flooding back. The dreams they shrugged off, the sudden misfortunes they laughed at, the inner voice they silenced. They see it all now. Those were their chances, their exits, their lifelines. But pride, it made them blind to the mercy that could have saved them. Their downfall wasn't a sudden strike. It was a slow, deliberate descent, guided by their refusal to listen. And now, the very pride that kept them from seeing the signs has left them defenseless against the consequences. The tragedy is not just their fall, it's how avoidable it could have been. Mercy knocked, but their arrogance refused to open the door. Number 8. They tried to bury you, but you were a seed destined to rise. They thought they could silence you, crush you, erase the threat you posed by pushing you into the shadows. But what they didn't realize is that burying you wasn't the end. It was the beginning. When they tried to cover you in darkness, they were unknowingly planting you into the very soil where your growth would begin. Like a seed buried in the earth, unseen and forgotten, they underestimated the power hidden in that dark place. What they meant as your grave became your foundation. The very pressure they applied was what forced you to root yourself deeper, to draw strength from unseen places, and to transform into something they never expected. Every attempt to break you was like rain nourishing your soul. Every effort to silence you was like sunlight reaching down to awaken your purpose. What they mistook for defeat was divine preparation. While they celebrated what they thought was your end, you were quietly becoming something they couldn't stop. The darkness they thought would swallow you became the environment for your greatest transformation. They couldn't see the growth happening beneath the surface. They mistook your stillness for surrender, but like a seed bursting through the ground, your rise was inevitable. And when you emerged, stronger, wiser, and more unstoppable than ever, they were left stunned. You weren't just surviving, you were thriving, flourishing in ways they never imagined. Meanwhile, their own lives began to bear the weight of their actions. The lies, the schemes, the cruelty. They couldn't outrun the harvest of what they'd sown. The very thing they tried to bury became the truth that exposed them. And as you rose, blossoming into your divine purpose, their downfall became clear. They thought they were covering you in defeat, but instead, they planted the seed of their own unraveling. What they intended to destroy has grown into something far greater than they ever had the vision to comprehend. You were never meant to stay buried. You were always destined to rise. Number 9. Their schemes became their downfall. Every plot they devised, every trap they set, every strategy they thought would destroy you, turned against them in the most spectacular way. They thought they were clever, orchestrating your demise, but their own plans were their undoing. What they didn't understand is that when someone is aligned with divine purpose, every attack only fuels their rise. Their schemes weren't just aimed at you, they were aimed at the forces that protect and guide you. That's where they made their fatal mistake. They thought they were pulling the strings, but the very threads they wove to ensnare you became the knots that tightened around their own ambitions. What was meant to break you instead exposed them, their flaws, their arrogance, their deceit. They weren't just outsmarted, they were undone. Every move they made was like a boomerang, circling back faster and harder than they ever anticipated. While they sat back, expecting to watch you crumble, they were unknowingly building the stage for their own reckoning. Their traps became prisons, their lies became the truths that unmasked them, and their attempts to harm you became the spotlight that revealed their intentions for all to see. And now, as you rise stronger, their carefully crafted plans lie in ruins. What they created with malice has turned into chaos in their own lives. The more they pushed to see you fail, the deeper they sank into the mess they made. They wanted your downfall, but all they did was dig their own grave. The irony couldn't be more poetic. Their confidence in your failure blinded them to the fact that they were orchestrating their own. And now, as they face the wreckage of their actions, they're left with a harsh truth. Their plans didn't just fail, they backfired spectacularly. What they meant to bury you became the very ground from which you've risen. Number 10. Their fall from favor became your rise to glory. Every attempt they made to tear you down, to tarnish your name, strip away your blessings and isolate you, has only hastened their own downfall. They thought they could take from you without consequence. But in trying to deny you, they denied themselves. What they didn't realize is that favor isn't stolen, it's earned. And theirs, it's slipping through their fingers. Socially, their mask has cracked, and the truth is catching up to them. The alliances they once relied on are crumbling, the people they manipulated now turning away as their lies unravel. Their influence, once a source of power, is fading like smoke in the wind. The spotlight they sought has become a glaring light, exposing their flaws, and the support they once commanded is nowhere to be found. Spiritually, their disconnection is complete. With every act of malice, they distance themselves from divine favor. What they took for granted, the flow of blessings, the sense of purpose, the peace that comes with alignment, has dried up. They're in a wilderness now, unable to hear, see, or feel the guidance they once ignored. They may not yet realize it, but they've shut themselves out of the grace they so desperately need. Materially, the cracks are beginning to show. The wealth, success, and stability they once flaunted are slipping away. What was gained through deceit and manipulation was never truly theirs to keep. The blessings they tried to withhold from you are now flowing freely in your direction. The tables have turned, and their loss is becoming your abundance. You, on the other hand, are stepping into the favor that was always destined for you. Where they falter, you rise. Where they lose, you gain. Your strength, patience, and alignment with divine purpose have set you on a path where blessings follow your every step. The favor they tried to deny you is now undeniable. As they struggle in the wreckage of their own making, you're walking into the abundance of everything they thought they could take away. Their loss isn't just a consequence, it's the evidence of your rise. Number 11. They provoked the wrath of a protective creator. Their greatest mistake was thinking they were only coming after you. What they failed to see is that in targeting you, they were provoking a force far greater than themselves, the protective creator who shields you. Every cruel word, every betrayal, every calculated attack wasn't just against you. It was a defiance of the divine power that governs and protects your life. You were never standing alone. They thought they were dealing with a mere person, but they were challenging the divine purpose and the spiritual forces assigned to you. In their arrogance, they ignored the truth. You are chosen, marked by favor they could never take away. Their actions weren't just missteps, they were outright rebellion against something eternal. Now they're feeling the full weight of their choices. The universe doesn't forget, and justice doesn't delay forever. What they've sown in malice is returning to them with overwhelming force. They believed they could escape the consequences, but the wrath of a protective creator is relentless and just. As you rise, surrounded by divine favor, they're left to face the destruction they set in motion. Their downfall isn't accidental. It's the inevitable result of challenging a power far beyond their understanding. Number 12. Their fire became their furnace. The fire they lit, confident it would consume you, has become the furnace that now engulfs them. Their lies, betrayals, and cruelty were meant to break you, but instead they forged you. What they didn't anticipate was that the flames they kindled in malice would grow uncontrollable and turn on them. While they tried to burn you down, the fire only strengthened your spirit. Chosen and divinely protected, you weren't destroyed. You were refined. Meanwhile, the inferno they unleashed has begun devouring their own lives. Relationships are crumbling, opportunities slipping away, and stability dissolving into ash. What they thought would bring victory is now consuming everything they held dear. The more they try to escape, the hotter the furnace becomes. Karma has turned their weapon against them, multiplying the harm they sent your way. They sought to destroy your peace, yet now it's their own happiness that's in flames. No matter where they turn, there's no refuge. The fire reflects their own darkness, and it won't relent. You, however, emerge unbroken, stronger, and more aligned with your purpose. While they grapple with the wreckage of their choices, you rise, unstoppable and blessed, walking away from the ashes they created. The universe has a flawless way of correcting injustices, ensuring that those who rise against you inevitably face the consequences of their defiance. Their loss becomes your gain. Their fire, meant to destroy you, has turned into their own furnace. And you stand as living proof that nothing can stand against you when you're chosen and divinely protected. What was intended to harm you has only paved the way for your greatest triumph. Every challenge, every betrayal, every attack has only added fuel to your rise. Now, as they reap the consequences of their actions, you step boldly into the future that was always yours to claim. Keep rising, because the journey ahead holds even greater victories. If this message resonates with your spirit, know that you're exactly where you're meant to be. Don't let this momentum stop here. Stay connected to content that aligns you with your purpose and keeps you unstoppable. Hit subscribe, become part of this powerful community, and make sure you stay ahead of the game. The best is still unfolding. Together, we walk this path, stronger, wiser, and unapologetically chosen. Subscribe now. Stay aligned, stay blessed, and remember, the best is yet to come.